over the weekend, I beat 007 First Light. It took way longer than I thought. So it's showing, 17 hours, 48 minutes. That is me playing through the single player plus a little bit of doing the tax sim. Not a lot, but a little bit. Maybe an hour or so of that. Um, it's a great game. It's it's interesting how much it sort of feels like other types of games like Hitman, Sniper Elite, Metal Gear Solid, but it also feels entirely like a James Bond movie. So, a lot of maybe these games, Sniper Elite, Metal Gear Solid, Hitman, how much of that has been influenced by James Bond? Probably a lot, and then just kind of circles back around with the game because, my youngest and I were watching License to Kill last night. And as I'm watching License to Kill, I'm like, wow, this is just like playing the game. Just kind of going back to a James Bond movie based on what I was doing in the game, where you're in a situation where you're kind of like snooping around, figuring out what's going on, and then bad guys show up, and then you use the environment to take them out. And a lot of the hand-to-hand combat looks the same and is similar, and it's so at the end of the day, 007 is just First Light is an excellent video game adaptation of the core essence of what James Bond is. Down to the Bond babes, the Bond villains, the plot that goes on, the moment to moment action, and within that, I would have my minor complaints where I felt some of the areas that were more Uncharted like were a little boring. Jumping around. That's not as fun for me. There's sometimes where it did it really well. For instance, when there was a facility I was sneaking around in, breaking into the different floors. Sometimes it required me going outside alongside a cliff face that's right next to the building to get up higher. So I can understand where there's some of that. But there's some areas, and I mentioned this before, where you're just driving through this ship graveyard, and then at one point you have to get out so you can climb up a pipe to hit a button, zip down, climb up another pipe, hit a button to open a gate to the car, for the car to drive. Like, to me, that's not that interesting. But so, in my opinion, what they really need to do for the sequels, sure, I could see a sequel with this dude, but they really should just remake scenes or even full movies or previous Bond movies with this game engine because it works. It's it's hard to explain, but like again, I'm watching License to Kill. He's in the dock of the shipyard, or it's not really a shipyard. It's just in Miami where the guy that has the shark hunter boat is at, and he just opens a thing that has all the maggots or whatever inside, and he knocks out a guy, tosses him in there. Little things like that. That's in the game. Even in License to Kill, when he's underwater and he's on top of that kind of that drone, I forget what it's called. It's like the little submersible that has like the cocaine in it. And James Bond opens it, it's damaging the cocaine. And what does he do? I forget if he shoots a harpoon or something where he attaches it onto the airplane, and then he's, water skiing behind the airplane and then gets on it. Like, that's all stuff that this game can do. So 007, totally worth playing. Hopefully they make some more that are like that and take after the other games. It would be really cool.